The official search was called off the next morning. Publicly, it was over. The story was simple, clean, and utterly unbelievable. A tragic river accident. But I knew better. That night, I saw it. Through the thick, swirling fog that clung to the remote access track at the edge of the forest, I watched. A long lens brought the scene uncomfortably close. Two figures, shrouded in darkness, moved with a practiced, almost robotic efficiency. They loaded two black body bags into an unmarked van. The shapes were all wrong. Too long, too bulky in the wrong places. There was no grief, no urgency, just a quiet, methodical process. The red taillights of the van bled through the mist and then vanished, taking the town's dark secret with them. I knew then, with a chilling certainty, that the official story was a carefully constructed lie. This wasn't a closure. It was a cover-up. My investigation, if you could even call it that, began in the one place where truth can sometimes outlive lies, the town archives. The air in the basement of the old library was thick with the smell of dust and decay. Sunlight struggled through a single grimy window, illuminating dancing motes of dust. I spent days hunched over moisture-stained ledgers, their pages brittle and yellowed with age. The ink was faded, the handwriting a spidery scrawl from centuries past. I found scattered references, whispers on parchment, mentions of strange disappearances, always coinciding with the full moon. Vague descriptions of men who went into the forest seeking something and returned. Different. It was all disconnected, a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Frustrated, I started looking for a human element, a living memory. That's what led me to Frau Schmidt. Everyone in town knew Frau Schmidt. She was as much a fixture as the old clock tower, her family having lived here for generations. I found her in her small cottage, a plume of smoke curling from the chimney. Inside, the air was warm, smelling of wood smoke and dried herbs. She sat by the hearth, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea, the flickering candlelight making her sharp eyes seem ancient. She didn't seem surprised to see me. When I asked about the forest, about the old stories, she just nodded slowly. She spoke of old rites, of rituals performed under the full moon by men hungry for power, for a connection to something primal. They sought the spirit of the woods, she said, her voice a low whisper. But the woods have a spirit of their own. It doesn't like to be disturbed. She told me how these men would come back changed, their bodies twisted, their minds fractured. Half man, half beast, she murmured, her gaze distant. They became a part of the forest's shadow. Her folklore painted a terrifying picture, but it was the town records that provided the chilling confirmation. Buried deep within the archives, in a section rarely touched, I found what the priests had written. These weren't just ledgers of births and deaths, they were chronicles of fear. They wrote of beastmen, creatures that stalked the forest periphery, driven by an insatiable hunger. The entries were filled with sketches, crude, terrifying drawings of figures with antlers, elongated limbs and glowing eyes. There were lunar diagrams, tracking the cycles of the moon with frantic precision. More disturbingly, I found copies of old town edicts, detailed instructions on how to handle the lost, a chillingly benign term for these transformed men. There were rules about curfews during the full moon, about reinforcing doors and windows, about never ever entering the woods after dark. This wasn't just folklore, it was a documented, managed crisis. The language hinted at a higher authority, at knowledge held by the government itself. It became terrifyingly clear the rangers weren't just park wardens, they were a containment line. They were the wall between our world and the one lurking just beyond the trees. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place that night at the tavern. The place was quiet, the air thick with the smell of stale beer and wood smoke. Ranger Schmidt was there, nursing a pint in the corner, his face etched with a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. I sat down opposite him, the silence stretching between us. I didn't need to ask my questions, he could see them in my eyes. He finally looked up, his gaze heavy. "You saw, didn't you?" he said, his voice low and gravelly. He didn't wait for my answer. "Some truths are more dangerous than the lies that hide them," he began, his eyes fixed on the amber glow of the fire. "Truth breeds chaos, curiosity. Curiosity kills faster than any beast out there." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. We don't just protect the border of the park, we protect the world from what's inside it. We contain it. He took a long swallow of his beer, the glass clinking heavily as he set it down. People think this is just a forest. It's not. It's a cage. A new, deeper dread settled in my stomach as he delivered the final chilling blow. If people knew the truth, he said, his eyes locking onto mine, they wouldn't run. They'd come. With cameras, with guns, to hunt it, to film it, and to feed it. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as compelling as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. See you in the next one.